And as much as the technology can be a wonderful tool for our students, especially in a virtual environment, the importance is not to lose those good practices with relationship building in the classroom. So I think just being able to understand that good teaching comes from a mutual respect with teachers and their students, and keeping that at the core.
Welcome to the Please Raise Your Virtual Hand podcast. We are so delighted to dive into the exciting, challenging, and sometimes messy world of virtual learning, where nothing is impossible and redefining student success is possible. Low Country Education Consortium aims to open up new possibilities for parents, students, and our business and industry partners as we fundamentally transform learning for students. We will hold your virtual hand throughout this series, where we will discuss the world of virtual learning and how we are preparing our students for college, careers, and jobs that haven't been created yet. Virtual learning may be new to you, but it's here to stay. So, let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to Please Raise Your Virtual Hand. We're your hosts, Amy McKenzie
and Matt Novielli.
We're excited to be joined by a team of educators today from Low Country Virtual. As a reminder for our listeners, LCV is the K-8 full-time virtual program offered to partner districts within the Low Country Education Consortium. One of the many benefits of belonging to the consortium is pooling resources between districts to offer a high-quality virtual option without draining the resources of any one individual district. This provides equity and accessibility to many families throughout the Low Country. Our guests today are the LCV kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers. Welcome Jenny Edwards, our LCV kindergarten teacher.
Hi.
Our 1st grade teacher, Jennifer Morrow.
Hi there. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Bailey Benton in 2nd grade.
Hello.
And Amber Williamson in 3rd grade.
Hi, thanks for having us. We're excited.
We're so glad to have you guys join us today.
So let's start out our conversation today with what most parents would want to know first and foremost when trying to decide if virtual learning is right for their family. What does your day typically look like? And out of that time, how much of it is spent with the students in a live meeting?
So I think where we're different than necessarily the older grades is that we spend most of the day face-to-face with students. So whether that is teaching whole group or the students then going into a breakout room to work independently, we really try to keep them online from about 8 till 12. So we start out just like you all do with homeroom, but then we move into math and we do a whole group math lesson, and then the students work independently, and we can kind of pop into the breakout rooms or, pull a small group of students, and then we give a brain break, and then we move right into ELA, and we follow the same format of whole group lesson, and then they're working in breakout rooms, and then we alternate between science and social studies. And then once the kids break for lunch, afterwards we come back, and some of us pull small reading groups in the afternoon as well. So really a large chunk of the morning, so from 8 to 12, the kids are on with us face to face.
We also offer from 2 to 3:30 office hours for our students to pop in if they need any additional support one-on-one time. We use that time to pull students who need that extra support as well to hopefully bring their grade up so they are no longer failing.
As my colleagues mentioned, during that morning block from 8 to 12, we include independent work, but we stay on live with the students so that we can meet with them one-on-one right in the moment after we've taught something instead of waiting to office hours if they need our assistance with beginning independent work or completing or checking for understanding.
Yeah, and in kindergarten, we have a little bit of a different expectation from our learning coaches than in the older grades. in that it's basically you get to go to school with your child. And so there is a heavy level of expectation and involvement, but many of our parents in this program are seeking that. And so with our youngest learners, they really do require, especially until about January, a learning coach to be shoulder to shoulder. And so that's one of the things that I love about this program is that I get to not only teach early childhood, but I'm also helping and equipping the learning coach to be the child's first teacher and additional teacher. And they love it because they have a certified teacher in their home leading and guiding them. So I definitely think that's an important thing to understand about our program, because those who are the most successful in kindergarten have a learning coach who is able to give their undivided attention to the student and to what we're doing in class. And those who have struggled in the past have perhaps had a learning coach who isn't able to do that. And at 5 years old, it's a little bit hard to do on your own without a dedicated learning coach.
That's fantastic, though, because I can't tell you how many times you sit there and think, what's going on under the hood? So, what's going on within the classroom when you get a chance to actually sit there, be with your child, and understand what they're learning, and then help them grow from there? When you are a part of it, you can see what they're learning and help them grow and learn even more. And that's a really special thing to be able to do.
And I think that's such a good point when we're talking about the way things are taught now are so different than when we were in school or when the parents of our students were in school. You know, for example, the new ways that math is being taught and the new strategies. Being a classroom teacher, I can't tell you how often I would record myself doing a math problem after school to then send to the parents and would get home and try to help their kid with their homework and have no idea how to help with that strategy because they've never learned it that way. So just like in third grade, I agree with Jenny, not even just kindergarten, but really all the primary grades, we really need a lot of learning coach support because these students are younger and we don't have necessarily the same advantage of being in the classroom where we can quickly pull a kid to the side. We need the parents to step in and be able to do some of that. But when a parent can sit there and hear us actually teach the lesson and the strategy, it's so nice. I have so many parents just texting me right there on the side and saying, "Oh my gosh, now I understand why you guys teach it that way. You know, I used to look at it and think this is ridiculous or this is just such a longer way to approach this problem." But it's kind of that light bulb moment where they're thinking, "Wow, yeah, that makes a lot more sense." And so it is neat to have that involvement where they truly are part of the classroom as well.
I absolutely agree with what you just shared, and I have learned over the last 3 years something that I did not previously do was with, say, our benchmark testing, I explain it all to the parents so they understand what is a benchmark, how often do we have a benchmark, what is each individual section of the benchmark, what are things that we can do together in class and at home so that we're test ready when we have to sit down and read decodable words or nonsense words. And for years, when I was in a brick and mortar setting, I didn't really think that piece was important because I felt like we take care of all these things at school. I prepare them at school. And so I never really took the time to explain the importance of those benchmarks or how they could assist their student at home or what to even expect. And I learned that many of my kindergarten students didn't really even understand how long 1 minute was. And so on like fast bridge early reading, on the dynamic indicators of basic early literacy skills, if a child doesn't have a concept of how quickly 1 minute passes and they're distracted or something else grabs their attention, it might not be an indication of how many words they can read in a minute. It can be how well they understand the task we're asking them to do. So in this setting, I've really partnered with parents to help them understand what are these tests, why are they important, what do they help us do as readers, and what can my child expect on the day that they take this test. And that's something that I never gave to parents prior to being in a virtual setting.
I love that phrase you used, partnered with parents. That is so, so important, especially in a virtual setting. I mean, it's important for all teachers to make sure that they're communicating and have that partnership, that teamwork with the parent, but especially in a virtual setting. So, in order for a student to be a good fit in low country virtual as a K through third grader, They need that parent to be there, to be with them and supporting them. So that's what we need from the parent and from the home life. What would you say are the characteristics of successful students? What type of student is a good fit for Low Country Virtual as a K through third grader?
I think there are many qualities, but the ones that I see shine the most are students that enter close to grade level or on grade level. I have found that for children in kindergarten, that if they enter significantly below grade level, it can be a struggle in a virtual setting because we're not always, as Amber said, right there to pull them aside and help them. And if their attention span is short, when they come back for those small reading groups, if they're not able to be attentive to a task or focused on a task, it can be a little more challenging to support some of those readers if they're significantly below grade level when they enter. But beyond that, I think just an understanding of the expectations of the program and a desire to meet those expectations, um, understanding what they're committing to, understanding that it's every day, that it's some people have a misunderstanding of what virtual education means from what it looked like in a COVID setting. So just being clear in expectations and also being clear in their commitment to those expectations really create a very successful environment.
I also feel students who are eager to learn and are engaged in the content and want to participate and are searching for that one more lesson to complete, one more book to read. I feel like they are a good fit for the program and make it easier for their learning coaches as well, if they're eager to learn and also have that independence as well.
So let's expand on that one. So, what kind of learning styles do you encounter from successful students in Low Country Virtual?
A student keeps coming to mind, and I'm going to quote a response. Recently, I asked him if he was ready to do something, and he said, "I was born ready." That was his response. And he's just excited about really anything that we do or that's put in front of him. So I would say one of the qualities is just like Bailey was saying, an excitement and a hunger for learning, an attitude of like, I want to be here, I'm making the choice to be here, and I'm excited to be here really helps as well. But I think we all have different types of learners. So in my class, I wouldn't categorize any one learning type. I think just a growth mindset, a positive attitude, and an eagerness and willingness to learn.
I never really thought about that too much until listening to Bailey just say that, but she's so right. The kid has to, have that, and what Jenny said as well, the eagerness and the positivity and just a natural curiosity. I find the kids who have that natural curiousness to dig deeper into asking questions. And we talk a lot about in the beginning of the year assertiveness and being able to reach out to your teacher when you're not understanding something, because it's very different in the classroom setting where they might just raise their hand and ask the question if they're not understanding something. But if they're working independently during their asynchronous time and don't understand something, we have to teach them how to email us. And this is how you would, explain that you don't understand something. Or you might need to ask your learning coach if they're right there. You don't just sit there and not understand what you're learning. It's very important that you are able to advocate for yourself.
What I'm hearing you guys say is that you have a great group of K through third graders with great learning coaches by their side, helping them with great attitudes and motivation and curiosity. And they're on the computer with you for most of the day. So I'm assuming that you're doing some fun and engaging lessons in your virtual classrooms. I would love to hear how you guys are working on purposefully building relationships with your students, and what are the fun and engaging things that your virtual students can do in our program?
So this is one of my favorite parts of our day. We try to do a lot of community building with our kindergarten through third grade. So we always start out our morning with social emotional lessons where we build teamwork and cooperation. And then we also have a lunch bunch where our kids can come back a few times a week just for their own specific grade level to meet with their friends. And then last year, I started something new in the afternoon. So 2 times a week, they can come back during office hours. And if I have kids that need help or parents, I can meet with them in a separate breakout room. And we have what's called chit chat time, which is basically like an online play date. So they can come and um, play video games together or bring dolls or whatever that they want to share with their friends to create that community and strengthen that participation amongst their friends.
And some of our students who we have chosen the virtual environment for some social emotional reasons, and I have some students who have anxiety or other things that make necessarily interacting with their peers face to face difficult, but they have found this environment less intimidating. And some of my most shy students are even, one of them came to me last week and said, Miss Williamson, I love playing chess. Do you think there's someone else in class who would want to join me for a chess game? And, so I reached out to the rest of the class, and there's another really chess fanatic. So now they're meeting, same thing, like Jennifer said, in office hours. Such a cool opportunity for kids who do struggle with that face to face interaction. It kind of helps build up their confidence. And then, I've had some parents say they're seeing it even lead into some of those social emotional lessons that we talk about in class. They're seeing it lead into how they interact face to face with their peers and adults even.
That's got to be so rewarding. You're teaching them these social emotional skills and strategies, and you're preparing these lessons and going through with them. And then to have the parent or the learning coach tell you that they're seeing it in their day-to-day life, that's got to be just so rewarding for you.
Yeah, it really is.
It truly is. And I'll say that we learn from them as well. And I think that the learning coaches also appreciate some of these social emotional learning lessons that we may not have had when we were 5. I've received some feedback from learning coaches just that they've appreciated what it is we're doing during our social emotional learning time. And one of my families, the learning coaches, is a high level businessman, and he mentioned one day after class, I really appreciate these SEL lessons, and I recognize, the growth mindset, Carol Dweck, and he starts mentioning all of these things, the 7 habits, and he's like, I'm so blown away that your school values this, and he's like, we pay a lot of money to have people come and teach our staff about this, and you're teaching my 5-year-old. And so it was nice that learning coach recognized what it is we're doing and how intentional the SEL lessons are. But I also think that sometimes I think we all can use just a moment to remember some of those lessons. And some of my learning coaches have commented, I'm so glad that the school values that. And you take the time to teach what empathy looks like. You take the time to talk about being assertive and how are we assertive in a way that's respectful to ourselves and others. And I think it's been incredibly powerful, but something that this team is really, really gifted at. My colleagues have made so many incredible SEL lessons that are really appropriate for our age group. They target the skills and the things that our younger children really need to understand, and understand it in a way that primary kids need to be able to explore what that concept looks like. But my colleagues are also really good at creating fun activities like Love a Book Day, where we dressed up as a book character and celebrated our love of reading. And that's one of the things I love about our team, is just some of the things that primary kids love that maybe a middle schooler might not be quite as excited about at this stage of their life. But my teammates are very good at planning and remembering those things that children just really, truly enjoy.
And they get those opportunities when they are at LCV. I can tell you firsthand that they love, no matter what grade you're in, they love the book days. They love dressing up. They love it all. So thank you guys for that, because we have a fantastic time with it. All right. Sounds like you guys do a lot of great things to help students become successful in not only their academics, but their life as well. But it has to be challenging to teach younger students to read virtually. What kind of barriers do you guys need to overcome when learning virtually for your grade levels?
I think one of the biggest barriers that we face is that being able to touch the books in front of us. One thing that's difficult with our primary grades is one of the first skills in teaching kids to track print. And when we're in the classroom, it can be done with sliders and picking up a child's finger. So often we face some challenges with teaching our kids to track print, and especially when the text begins to repeat and we have to do those wrap lines of text. Um, it's also difficult sometimes to find books on those early primary grade levels. However, we do have access to Raz Kids and Raz Kids Plus, which has a great resource of early readers. But we are limited in our virtual world in a sense because of where our readers begin.
Yeah, and just piggybacking on what Jennifer said, one of the things I worried about coming virtual was being able to collaborate with a team. And I just value that so much. And I've been so blessed to learn from this group of ladies. And it's just so nice that even though we're not in the same building, we're constantly sharing resources. And I can't tell you how often, Bailey or Jennifer and Jenny and I will text and say, does anyone have an idea for using this? And even though I'm third grade, some of my students are still struggling with phonemic awareness and phonics and things. So I have been able to learn so much from Jenny and Jennifer in the primary grades with the science of reading and really going back to those foundational skills. And I think being virtual, I've always been a big proponent in using technology in the classroom, but you really, we've been able to dig so deep and find just some amazing resources. I know Bailey and I have started using, and I think Jennifer too, La Lilo this year. And it's just, really meets the kids where they're at. And so instead of having to have a one size fits all program, even though we use the curriculum from the Canvas courses, we of course are able to then supplement with reading. But I agree so much with Jenny and Jennifer that you have to have a book in hand, and especially when learning to teach reading. And I think that goes right hand in hand to needing a reading coach who is present and who is able to do some of those things that a teacher would typically do. Our learning coach takes on that role and is able to provide some more of those hands-on experiences. And I know with Jenny and her kindergartners, she's having them have manipulatives such as the sand and the box for letter formation. And I've been blessed that my parents have been able to get their students whiteboards and markers and magnetic letters. So all those things that we would typically provide that they are also able to use at home, just in a virtual setting.
Absolutely. And for prospective students or learning coaches who might be listening and have that concern or are just curious to know, well, how does that look in kindergarten? As Amber mentioned, we used sand, salt, or rice, either in a plate or a Rubbermaid container or a tray, because we use the Orton Gillingham strategy of letter formation in a tactile kinesthetic way before they're expected to practice taking the phoneme to a grapheme and print. We play. We use Play-Doh, we use sand, we use salt, we use rice, we use Elkonin boxes, we use sound spelling mats to just have that repetitious practice in many ways before we pick up our pencil or before we pick up our crayon and we write. And over the years, teaching virtually, I found in kindergarten, in the very, very beginning stages of writing, I really struggled to teach a child how to form a letter without any guide. And having different journals or blank pieces of paper or whiteboard, I found it hard to give very specific directions on how to form the letter. So I'm very appreciative that Low Country Virtual provided supplemental workbooks for our kindergartners, and it has made a world of difference because now we all have a headline, we all have a midline, we all have a baseline, and I can give very specific directions when we're ready to take the next step of taking alligator. We've built it with Play-Doh. We've drawn it in the sand, and now we get ready to write. And everyone has an equitable, accessible, uniform template in front of them. So when I'm pointing to it on my document camera, everyone's looking at the same thing. And that's made a huge difference in teaching letter formation in kindergarten.
That's so great. I can just picture these little ones at home all working on that same workbook and then dipping their finger in their sand, salt, or rice. I just love that you're doing those tactile things with your learners to help get them the reading and the writing baseline that they need in those primary grades.
Yeah, thank you. I think that a lot of beautiful things come from struggle. And for me, the things that I was doing previously were leaving me in a place feeling like I'm not reaching all learners. I can't lean over a student and take their hand and help them form the letter. And so, through just an uphill climb, figured out what works and doesn't work for kindergarten students in a virtual setting. And so this year, I've enjoyed finding a lot more success in the way I'm teaching letter formation, but it has come through the struggle of realizing over the years, well, this strategy is not working and that strategy didn't work. And I've shared that with my students, and I try to model my own growth mindset. When things don't work out, I tell them, okay, well, that didn't work. We're going to try something different tomorrow. I mean, even day to day when things don't work. But yes, Orton Gillingham has been very, very helpful in my understanding of ways that I can incorporate more hands-on, repetitious activities to help students retain and recall sounds and spellings in a systematic, structured way.
I say all the time, teachers are always asking their students to be the learners and to take on more and practice, practice, practice. But as an educator, it's our job to always be learning and always be practicing and improving ourselves. And especially in the virtual setting, there are just so many new things coming out every year, every month, every day, that it's our job to constantly be improving ourselves. Would any of you like to elaborate on some of the ways that you have developed yourselves as virtual teachers in the last few years?
This is my first year teaching virtual, besides the year that we were all virtual for the pandemic. So, as much as I thought, I've made the joke constantly this year that I thought I was like this tech guru. And then I see people like you, Amy, and Caitlin. I'm like, whoa, I don't know much at all here. So, I feel like I am learning all sorts of new things this year. And I have this running list of, okay, look more into that this summer, try to take a course on this, implement this next year. But I think it really comes down to the core. True, authentic teaching is about relationships. And as much as the technology can be a wonderful tool for our students, especially in a virtual environment, the importance is not to lose those good practices with relationship building in the classroom. So I think just being able to understand that good teaching comes from a mutual respect with teachers and their students, and keeping that at the core.
What you're saying is so true, Amber. Relationships are, and I think that I'm so glad you brought that up because people worry about that. Well, how is my student going to be able to interact socially in a virtual setting? And I can't agree with you more. Relationships are still the center of our work, and everything stems from there.
I hear that all the time when I tell people that I'm a virtual teacher. They say, well, how do the kids make friends? And I say, I teach them to.
And to go off of that, Amy, as well, is what Jennifer was saying about having those chit chat times and having those lunch buddies. And I also incorporate in my classroom that we, for my stronger readers, that we have reading buddies, and they are students in our 6th and 7th grade. And we have a time during my ELA block, and it's a block of time that they are independently working, that they come in and read with my higher students. So we are not only building relationships within our classroom, but we're also building the relationships outside of the classroom. And I know also as a program that we do whole school-wide events and activities, such as what's coming up on Friday, our spring fling. So students in all grades are able to complete a task that we have prepared for them so that they are able to be with all different students, not just those in their grade level.
And Amy, in addition to reading buddies, like Bailey mentioned, one thing that I've started doing this year, because many of my first graders have looped up to second grade with Bailey, is I do mystery readers every Friday. So from August until December, I had a parent or a grandparent come in every Friday as a mystery reader. But then starting after January, I've had my second graders or my previous first graders sign up to come back during our Friday meet and read aloud to the first graders. And then since that went so well, Bailey and I have decided to combine our morning meetings on Friday because our first and second graders have now built relationships. And it's so fun to see my old students and their old families. So we do a joint morning meeting where we do a little SEL work and some movement breaks. And then we have one of the second graders share their reading with everyone. And we do some other kind of fun team building activities so that they get a chance to build relationships outside of just their grade level. And they also get to kind of get familiar with Miss Benton if they're staying with LCV and moving to second grade.
Yeah, and another thing I love that Low Country Virtual, when we offer clubs, that it's not grade level specific. So I loved getting to know, when you're in a brick and mortar school, your old students come back and visit. And, those were always kind of the highlights of my day, getting to see my past students and letting them talk to my current students and hearing how they're doing. So I love that we still offer these clubs and things that are multi-grade level, because I got to know so many of the fourth and fifth graders this year through my STEAM club. And then I know, Jennifer host an art club, and just getting to see the art that these kids are creating from, kindergarten all the way up to fifth grade. It's just such a good opportunity for them to have role models to look up to, the older students, and get to know, students on a deeper level. And I've had a few students who are willing to, their parents have brought them. They live an hour apart from each other, but they're still having play dates. A few of my girls are meeting up every weekend, and it's just so sweet to see. I know Jenny had some students this week meet up as well. So even though they're virtual, they are developing these really sweet relationships.
Yes, and that was the most precious thing, because the learning coaches included me by sending pictures and video, and it just touched my heart, because that's what we hope for here at Low Country Virtual, is that we can do, I always joke and say, virtually anything is possible. And I truly believe that, and I want others to know that as well, because I know that some parents enter this program just a little apprehensive and not really sure what to expect. And I often tell my parents that it's like a highly concentrated day of kindergarten. In our class, like the others, my kids are finished whole group around lunchtime, and some of them come back after lunch for small group. But because we're not transitioning in the hallways, because we're not going to our special areas as part of our day, we do have special areas, it's separate, but we're able to do all of our core subjects in a highly concentrated but age appropriate way. And then they are able to connect and get to know each other in all of these other options. I love Jennifer's chit chat, and I love that first and second grade get together. And Amber has done her Lego day. It was a really fun day to just see what kids are doing across grade levels. So I agree. I really love the additional options where our students get to interact with students beyond their grade, but they also have ways to connect with friends in their class.
And also, don't you guys feel like I know the parents better than I ever have, in a brick and mortar school? The relationship we have built with these parents is just absolutely amazing. And the fact that the kids know that I talk to all the parents through Google Voice and text messages. So it's so quick and easy for me to pick up my phone in the middle of a lesson if I see, a kid struggling or maybe not as focused as they should be. It's really helpful to have that relationship with parents that, they're constantly able just to poke their head on the camera and, peek in on a lesson and let me know something. I just feel like it's really a family effort. We know these whole families. We know things that are going on in their life, and it just, because of that, we're talking about the relationships and worrying about not having as close of relationships, not being in person. I actually feel closer to some of these families than I ever have, even in person.
Amber, I absolutely agree with that as well. Um, being able to actually be inside of the student's home and know what's going on in their families. It kind of feels like we are one big happy family. I have a student who just moved into a beautiful new home and he was so excited. And we do have that homeroom time in the morning built in. That is the time that we do our social emotional learning, but it's also a time to make those connections. And we had him give us a little tour of his house, just something exciting that he wanted to share. So we were able to have a tour of his house. Or if a student has a new puppy, well, this is the time that you can come up and share and show, so we can continue building those relationships and just getting to know those students, like I said, that we're all a family.
Yeah, you're so right, Bailey. I feel like I always um, prided myself in having great relationships with my parents when I was in a brick and mortar building. But now I feel like, as you mentioned, that we are such a big family, and it's so great when they have their grandparents in town that are visiting, and I always encourage them to sit as their learning coach for the day so that I can meet their Nana or their Papa or whoever is in town, new baby sisters and brothers. And sometimes our kids are on vacation and they are. Um, Working virtually in a different location, and it's been so fun for them to be able to share experiences in other parts of the country or other cities that they've been visiting. Um, and it's just been really rewarding to have those really tight connections with all members of their family.
I think that's one thing that truly makes Low Country Virtual a unique program is that for the learning coaches, the parents, the families that want to be really, really involved in their child's learning, this is the option for them. They can be learning every day right beside their child and be part of that team to get their child to meet their goals.
Absolutely. And one of my students has a unique situation that they have shared with the class openly. But it has been a beautiful way for us to support one of our students who has been going through cancer treatments this year. And the family has expressed just a deep gratitude that it's given their family a sense of normalcy in the midst of something that is not normal, and that it's allowed the child to just be a kindergarten student and to go to school and to learn and grow in a way that he feels is the same as the peers in his class. And um, that's really been eye-opening to how important that is. And prior to having virtual options, that students who were going through situations like that really didn't have an outlet to just have a place where they wanted to just be in school as well, and they just wanted to be a kindergartner who wants to participate and learn and grow. And it's been a really beautiful honor to support this family and to be trusted with this child's kindergarten year in the midst of the other things that the family has going on. So, Low Country Virtual is a beautiful solution for difficult situations that families could be facing that may not have otherwise had a good option for their child to continue in a learning situation with peers.
That is beautiful, Jenny, and we're just so fortunate.
Yeah, and when Jenny, you know, told us all, shared the experience that one of her students was going through, and she just did this beautiful thing of setting up this Flipgrid channel where, staff members or other students can record themselves reading a story or sharing a funny joke or a magic trick or something, and then that this little boy was able to have his classmates and school members with him while he was receiving chemo treatments. It just warmed my heart so much that to think how beautiful this opportunity was for him, that even though this was such a dark time of his life, this brought such light to him every single day while he was receiving those treatments. And Jenny, I just thought that was just an amazing way to use technology to connect with him, in such a tough time for his family.
Well, I lean on all of you, and you all you all inspire me to continue to look for ways to connect with students. And I've learned a lot from each of my colleagues here in the way that they create opportunities for kids to be kids. Kids need time to talk about their favorite video game or what they like to play after school or their loose tooth or what they're going to eat for lunch or whatever's on their heart or their mind. And if we don't give them that opportunity, it's going to be really hard for them to listen to what we need them to learn. And so I've truly learned from Jennifer and Amber and Bailey. They have been very, very intentional about creating those opportunities for their students. And so I truly have been inspired by them. And this was a way that worked for this child's situation, but I really am inspired by you all. You just have very creative ways to create that space in a virtual setting for our students. So I continue to get a lot of great ideas from you all.
And Jenny, I completely agree with that, that I feel that we are so blessed to have such a tight-knit team, even though we live hundreds of miles apart, but we still rely on each other and communicate daily about different ideas and strategies that work best for us. And not only within just our team, but within our whole program. I know that we have a pineapple chart that we use, which is an opportunity for teachers to observe other teachers to get those different ideas or to learn a new strategy, to learn a new technology tool, so that we have a one-stop shop where we can go in and we can review ideas that teachers have shared that would benefit the rest of us. So we are very lucky that even though we are virtual, that we can pop into other classes and see what other teachers are doing with their students and learning new strategies and tips from them.
This is outstanding because, especially with this grade levels that we're talking about right now, that is always a concern that families have, is how do you build your connections and how do you get to know your students? And you guys create those connections through opportunities. You guys are being intentional about it. You're offering life lessons. You're helping them to grow academically and emotionally. And you're giving them the opportunity to meet and make new friends from places that they may have never had before, that they may have never had an opportunity to meet these students that they have something in common with from all different parts of the state. And here they are making that connection through Low Country Virtual.
Absolutely. And I think Low Country Virtual has been just so gracious to all of us as teachers to allow us adequate planning time. And the amount of pressure and stress that teachers feel when their planning time is taken or filled with other things in a brick and mortar setting has truly been such a gift. So I feel like our students get such rigor and high quality in their instruction because teachers have adequate planning time to prepare and to take something that would look one way in a brick and mortar, but change it to meet the needs of our virtual setting. And sometimes that does take a little more time to create a hands-on activity in a virtual setting. Low Country Virtual has been phenomenal about actually giving us adequate planning time and teams to actually grow and develop across grade levels with in our specific subject areas that we're a part of those teams, and then individually for our own grade level as well.
Ladies, I am just blown away by everything you've shared today. I feel inspired, and I'm just so grateful to be part of the same program with a group of such excellent educators. So Jenny, Amber, Jennifer, Bailey, thank you all so much for taking the time to be on Please Raise Your Virtual Hand.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. This is fun.
We would like to extend our gratitude to Jenny, Amber, Jennifer, and Bailey for sharing valuable insights on their impactful work with K-3 elementary students at Low Country Virtual. For more inspiring stories from our exceptional educators, don't forget to follow Low Country Virtual's Twitter account at LC Virtual School. Thank you for listening and have a great day.
This podcast is written, hosted, edited, and produced by a team of educators from the Low Country Education Consortium. Amy,
Caitlin,
Matt,
And Meg.
are proud to bring you
please raise your virtual hand.